Hello, my name is Kambra French, and I'm the Director of Mission Effectiveness at Carmel Catholic High School. I'm here today with our Spiritus Quarantine Edition, Spiritus from Home. We have these wonderful talks from earlier in the year that we are re-releasing with new footage of people who take the main ideas of the talks and show their relevance for their life. And so this one's really fun. I'm very excited for this one because we have two amazing Carmel Catholic High School students with us today. We have Hannah Arends, who is a junior, current junior, rising senior. And then we have Matthew Barker, who is one of our graduating seniors, class of 2020. And today they will both be reacting to the basic themes of the Kevin Matthews talk. And then Matthew himself, who was at the talk, will share some of his impressions. So without further ado, thanks to both of you for being here.
Of course, thank you.
Absolutely. Hannah, I'd like to start with you. The main thrust of Kevin Matthews' talk is the power that our Blessed Mother had in his life. It helped him turn his life around. It helped him to encounter Christ in a very, very powerful and real way that has had a lasting change within his life. And so, you know, I know you a bit here, Hannah, and I think you'd be a great person to talk about this. Would you be willing to share a few things about the role of Mary in your life?
Yeah, so growing up, I knew God and knew my faith, but I wasn't very interested in learning about it. And so freshman year, I went on a retreat and we had an option of what talk to go to. And one of them was about Mary. And I just felt a call to go to that talk. And so this morning I found the notebook from that talk that I kept notes on. And I haven't looked at this notebook since that talk. And so I thought it was really interesting. The things I wrote down were that Jesus loves knowing we love Mary was my favorite point that I kept. And I also said that Mary is bringing the needs of humanity to Jesus, and she's the mother of us all. And those 3 points really encompass Mary's role in my life, and the joy of the rosary, and also Marian consecration has been really important to me.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Marian consecration? And I ask that because by the time we release this, it will probably be pretty close to be able to do a consecration to Mary that will end on the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, with obvious significance to Carmel Catholic High School. So tell me about Marian consecration.
So Marian consecration is the idea of consecrating yourself to Jesus through Mary. So I'm consecrated to Our Lady of Fatima, and I reconsecrate myself every year. So it was just last Wednesday. And I use this book from Father Michael Gately. And obviously mine's very torn and used, which reminds me of the Broken Mary statue of how she was broken, but still beautiful. But the consecration is just learning about Mary for 33 days. And then giving yourself to Mary so she can use you to bring people to Jesus.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I'm wondering, as a young woman of faith, whether it's in the Carmel community or your wider community, what is it about Mary that has changed you? What would you say is qualities of Mary that you'd like to emulate in your own life?
I love how she's seen as gentle, but is also so powerful. And the love she has, but also being the crusher of the head of Satan, and how powerful and how scared of Mary Satan is, because her woman, how she's so powerful as a woman that he doesn't like being taken down by a woman. That's awful to him, and how powerful women are. And we have the beautiful gifts of femininity that she gives us, and she's such a model of just perfect femininity.
That's awesome. That incredible juxtaposition of gentleness and strength. such a role model for us, the icon of womanhood. So thank you for that, Hannah. That's beautiful. And I hope many of our listeners feel drawn to Mary, drawn to our Lord through Mary after hearing your words. So thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Matthew, who actually was in attendance the night that Kevin Matthews gave us the amazing talk, Broken Mary. And he was there, and he heard Kevin Matthews' whole story in his talk. And so Matthew, as a man of faith, a young man of faith, I'm wondering if you could just tell me what lasting impressions did Kevin's talk have on you?
Well, there was a few big ones. For me, the biggest impression would have to be he kept repeating the idea that there are no coincidences.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes he was speaking to that in context of a miracle happening, because obviously there are some things from his stories that could be considered miraculous, but the idea that there's no coincidences and that God is kind of planning things out for you is something that I've heard about, in religion classes in the past and things like that. But it was special to me to hear somebody like that who's been through so much, and he's known a lot of pain, but he's also known a lot of, he was pretty much a celebrity. And he's realized that same thing, that there's no coincidences. Like, God has a say in everything. And that was special to me. And I think that that's something that I'm going to have to remind myself, because he was able to look at things that weren't favorable to him in light of it being a positive one day. So I think that that's a good way to start a new attitude about where you're going and what's happening. And especially also when he talked about how when they found he had the mass in his brain, and how all of a sudden his whole perspective just changed. And still he was able to look at that as being, it's part of the plan, it's part of the destiny, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, that's a huge, he thought he was going to die for a long time, but he was able to come to terms with that and still see it as there being no coincidences. So that was my big takeaway by far from his talk.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Just that constant theme of the presence of God in everything that happens, and how he's with us at all times, and in all the details of our lives, that intimate knowledge of us and love of us. So speaking of details of life and events happening, you are graduating from Carmel very soon, and you're starting a new chapter with college and moving on in your life. Can you speak to the role that your prayer life or your relationship with God will have during these times?
Totally, yeah. Because when he visited, it was in October, and I thought it was cool because that was when I was in the application process. So at that point, it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind, but now I know where I'm going and I have plans. And I rewalked the talk again, and one of the things he said was just something like, leave it to God, or just let it be with God. And I think that is probably the best faith advice you could get when you're going somewhere new. I mean, just to be able to trust in yourself and trust in God. And I think that, obviously Carmel's a Christian school, but that's just a life advice. I think if you can just trust in whatever it is you believe to be the driving force of your life, that's a huge motivator for you. And for me, just to be able to trust in God and trust that he's gonna, there's no coincidences. So trust that he's gonna to make things happen for me is something that, it makes you feel really strong. It makes me feel strong. And so when I go off to college, I don't know anybody, but that I'm going to trust. I'm just going to try to trust things. I'm going to try to trust myself to be who I am. And I'm going to trust God to just let me be who I am, and hopefully everything will turn out okay. But trusting is the faith advice that I've gotten from Carmel and from Kevin Matthews.
That's awesome. Total surrender to God's will. The little that I know you, Matthew, I think God has great things in store for you. And so I pray that you're open to his will for your life. I just have to give you both a huge thank you. I can't think of two better guests for this spot. And so I'm grateful to both Hannah and you, Matthew, for being a part of this today. And I hope that our viewers enjoyed this. And I hope that after this preface, you will stay with us and watch the re-released footage of this Kevin Matthews talk, that really just had an impact on everyone who was there and even beyond. It's a wonderful thing, and so I hope that you enjoy this re-release. So thanks again, Hannah, Matthew. God bless you as we finish up the year, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Hello. My name is Kambra French, and I am the Director of Mission here at Carmel Catholic High School. Welcome to Spiritus. It's so wonderful to see a full house. Our first event in our brand new renovated auditorium, so welcome. Thank you for that. Here at Carmel Catholic High School, we don't begin a single thing without praying. And so I would ask if you would all please join me. And in honor of our topic and our focus for this evening, if we could together say a Hail Mary. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you so much. It is my privilege this evening to introduce to you current Carmel parent and Carmel graduate, Lisa Ehlert.
Thank you. I'm not going to lie, who's excited? I am like busting with excitement. This is going to be a great night. Our speaker tonight really doesn't need any introduction. If you're from Chicago, you're familiar with his voice. For 30 years, he's entertained us. He's weak. So we're so honored. We're so grateful to have our speaker, and I'm so grateful that all of you are here. I actually went to go see Kevin about a year ago, and I walked away and I thought to myself, that was so fantastic. I want to invite every single person I know to hear this. And so this was our chance to do that. I'm so grateful to Carmel and to Kevin for making that happen. And a funny story is when I went to go see Kevin, I was getting ready, and my daughter came to me and said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I broke something really special and dear to you." And she broke the Virgin Mary statue that sits on our kitchen counter. And I was like, that's really odd because I broke my Mary. And lo and behold, Kevin's entire talk was about how there's no such thing as coincidence. And I truly believe that's the case tonight, that we were all called here for a special reason. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have Kevin come to Carmel, and to Cammie and to everyone on the Spiritus team at Carmel. And our hope is that you leave here feeling uplifted and inspired and filled with love. So with that, we have a little video that we want to begin with.
I found this statue of the Virgin Mary in the dumpster. I don't know who would do such a thing, but this statue of Our Lady caught my eye. I walked over and looked, and she's broken in half at the waist. Her hands are missing. She looked so cold and abandoned, her eyes just looking up at me. And that's when I heard a voice I'll never forget. This stern voice said, "Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother?" I ended up taking the statue. I kept her because she was broken, and so was I. I took her home and I called a priest, and he came and blessed her, and that's when the miracles began. First, I had this urge to recite the rosary. I didn't marry herself. She taught me her rosary. And when you recite and hold her rosary, you are holding the hand of Mary. And when you hold the hand of Mary, you're holding the power of God, and that power can heal everyone who's broken. So many people have touched the statue of broken Mary. Some are sick, many have addictions, so many are afraid or dying of loneliness. Many have contemplated suicide, and some are serving life in prison. We all are broken. It's humbling to go to Mary and say, Mary, the mother of Jesus, please, please, Mary, be my mother today. This world is more, and close your eyes and finally be with God.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a round warm of applause for our speaker, Kevin Matthews.
Thank you. How are you? Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Give yourselves an applause. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I do. Wow, a lot. Well, first of all, how many are Kev heads? Raise your hands. Okay, great. That's good. Now be honest. How many have never heard of me before? You look at it. My wife brought me here. Well, for the next 5.5 hours, that would be stupid. 4.5 hours, you're going to get to know me. You know, I say that because the people that don't know me, you have really great guardian angels until now. They've been working so hard, and now here we are. Is it hot in here, or is it me? Okay, good. I've got a disease. This has been, I've never, being back in high school, it's kind of, I thought I was being sent to the principal's office already, and this auditorium, okay, I got to live up to that. I have been doing this for this year alone. Let me talk. I'm kind of flustered a little bit because, for those who know me, I'm married to Debbie. Okay, 36 years. Oh yeah, she is. Speaking of guardian angels, 36 years she's been married, and I just called her before I went on, to get, hey, I love you and stuff like that, and she's like, that's what she sounds like. Today, he's our grandson, 4th grandson, and he got circumcised today, so have a good show. What is that? And any guy, I'm like cringing. I'm going, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. So I've got some slides. Are we able to see some slides? Oh, I got it. You might want to do it. I don't want to wreck it. Again, bless him too. He's going to punch me out. He's like, No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Freebird. Remember that? That's what I'm thinking about. The history of us Kev heads. I'm so blessed. When we were here and you listened, and Gary Meyer, saints, Brandmeier, saint, Howard Stern, definitely a saint, Larry Word, our boss, saint. And, the history, folks, we shared our lives together. We're younger, we went to school, or some of us become plumbers or college, doctors, we have kids, we got married together, we had babies together, we did all this stuff together. Michael Jordan, remember Mike when he came, and championships, and Chicago was the perfect storm. It's the best city in America, especially at that time. We set the bar, and the bar, they're trying to reach it around the country. Blackhawks, we had Ditka, Saint, beyond Saint. You had Mort Downey Jr., remember him? And what else do you remember? I mean, we had, the Hard Rock Cafe or House of Blues, Bill Murray, Second City, Stan McKeed, I loved him, and Keith Magnuson, and I got kicked out of 10 golf courses in 10 years. Remember those? Yeah, none of the guys are going, no, I don't remember those, Kev. I don't remember those. And then the cell phone wrecked everything. Man, did we have fun, folks. We had fun. How many people, are there anybody, like students here? Do we have any? You don't even know what a radio is, do you? That's what I like. Were you on Spotify? Your head's awfully big. Are you a horse? What are you? My parents used to listen to you. My grandfather and you're weird. Are you on Spotify? Man, oh man, that's what I love. They don't even own a radio. We had clock radios. We had all this stuff. We grew up together, folks. We really had a great, great time. And here we are. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've been doing this this year. Let me just focus on this year. I've probably spoke in front of 30,000 people this year on the subject here. And I do know this. There's no such thing as a coincidence at all. Okay? There's no such thing as a coincidence. Now, I know that the people that are supposed to be here are here. Not to see me, okay? Horsehead. And the stage lighting, it does put pounds on. Folks are going, yeah, he's gained a little weight, but it was the stage lights. When you go to get the book out in the lobby, you go, wow, they did put 30, 50 pounds on you. But there's no such thing as a coincidence, okay? There really isn't. And, I've been doing this here. I mean, I just said Brandmeier, Steve, people go, when did you become a Jesus freak? A what? Jesus freak. And I go, since I was 6. So tonight, I'm going to bring some stuff to you that I don't normally get to bring to folks, but I want to bring some things to you. I got some, because normally if you're speaking, some churches don't even have screens or electricity or anything like this. So it's really great. I want to just show you some things, okay? And this is the house I grew up in. Okay, when I say 6, literally. Now this is Pontiac, Michigan. This is outside Detroit. People in Detroit, you're from Pontiac, they run. Okay, it was a rough place. Now this little pointer, can you see the little pointer? Doing that little thing? Pretty cool, huh? Technology. Excellent. Like seeing the Stones or U2 at Soldier Field. Yeah, I saw Kev, the technology. The talk was great, but the technology was excellent. See this little bedroom right up here? That was my brother and I. That's where we slept. That's our bedroom. I was like in 5th, 4th, 5th, smoking and throwing cigarettes out of this window. I'm not kidding you. I'm not lying, okay? I mean, think of the subject. I'm not lying. Feels good. This is like confession for me, okay? Can down here, and one day, that night, it caught on fire, and I can remember there was a step, it was a wooden step, and we could hear our dad about the 4th step creak, and then you could throw everything out, and he smoked, so he couldn't say, "You smoking?" unless the downstairs wastepaper basket was caught on fire. But the reason I say this is because this was where I grew up. And when I say Jesus freak at the age of 6, this was a rough neighborhood, folks. It really was. I look back at it, I don't want to be like Dr. Phil's show, my parents were so bad. My parents fed us, did the best they can, but now that I grow up, I look back at it, it was tough. It was really, really tough. Growing up at the age of 4 and 5, or the race riots, or sirens, or the people across the street, sirens, cops, they found out there, I grew up there, I was surrounded by families' alcoholism, and we were hillbillies. We were. And, my dad had a drinking problem. There's a lot of there was rage in the house, outside the house. And so, as a Catholic, going to, church, I was little, and I heard about this guy named God, and it was like I would lay in bed crying, or I'd hear the yelling downstairs, God, take me to heaven. Take me to heaven. There is some children. Never will, God comes to the rescue. And, God always had my hand. I let go of it, but he's always there to retrieve. So I can remember saying that, God, take me to heaven. So I became a Jesus freak at the age of 6. And I grew up and moved to Rochester and graduated. Went to college. I followed this girl, Dawn. If I wanted a car, I had to earn the money. If I wanted clothes, I had to earn it. So I worked at a drugstore. And it was Perry Pharmacy in Troy on Big Beaver. It's my first joke. In 7th grade, told all my friends where I worked. A lot. But Dawn, she took care of the cards, and I loved her. She was so beautiful. She had long black hair, and she was just gorgeous, and I loved her. And so I stalked her. Stalking's kind of a tough word. Eventually, junior, senior, I'm in school. She's going to go to college. She's going to go to Grand Valley. So I'm going to go to Grand Valley. So I follow her to Grand Valley. I get into Grand Valley. It's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was a cool little school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But the first semester, she transferred to Ferris. So here I am at Grand Valley, and it was like, oh, now what do I do? So I lost the love of my life. I've never seen her. I'm afraid to go on Facebook or anything. I've been married 36 years. I don't think she's on Facebook, but she's definitely on Instagram. No, don't tell Debbie that. So anyways, here I'm at Grand Valley, and I do meet Debbie, and Debbie was like, she just liked me, and I'm like, what do you like? I was like a Shetland pony. It's like, what do you see? And we ended up getting married, and that's where I got my first radio job, and I did college radio, and the students that don't know what radios are, or clock radios, we used to have these devices called clock radios, and they would ignite music and wake you up. But anyways, I did the morning show. And I remember I've got to wake students up, and I was always late. If I'm a half hour late, there's nothing on your clock radio. I mean, the university is constantly late. I'm not kidding you. And so I'd put a record on, and I'd turn the turntable on, and then I'd turn the turntable, and it'd start spinning, and then I'd hit the transmitter. That was Boston. It's 7:16. It's Tuesday. Gonna be sunny, everything. One time I'm really late. It's like an hour late. So I just got on the air and the whole campus is a crime scene, so there's no school today. That didn't go over well. The administration, I was a senior then, took the station away. FCC shut us down. It's now a hair salon at Grand Valley University, seriously. And, you know, I would then go on and get a commercial job, and I was making $12,000 a year. I was filthy rich. I could eat banquet pot pies, fish sticks, tater tots. Debbie bought orange juice. I never had that in Pontiac. Are you kidding me? $12,000. Got involved in radio. Then Debbie's going to have a son, Trevor. Remember Trev? Okay. Trev is born. Trev's great. He's 35 now. He's a full-time musician. Now, some of the students here that don't know radio, he's in a band called Dawes. You might know that. They tour all over the world. Madison Square Garden, Dawes. They just got off the road with Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie Nelson. Trev goes, it's true. It's true. That band smokes a lot of weed. Actually, we got, Teague is born. Teague, like I said, my daughter just turned 30. She's now got 4 babies. Little Trin, she's 7. Little Rhett, he's 5. Little Bo, he's 3. And today was circumcised little Dane. That's my life. They live in Grand Rapids, 3 miles away. So, I mean, I'm really lucky. I was podcasting. You know, it's just, I'll get into, you know, I was in Michigan. Then I did a short stint in St. Louis. That was terrible. Then Steve, I started to send tapes to Steve Dahl and Gary, and they started to play them. And AM 1000 was born, and Come On Up, and, you know, folks, we had a great, think of what we did, Alpine Valley, Poplar Creek. I'm so proud because there was a sign that said, no yelling free bird, and that whole thing, that's all over the world. You can get people yelling free bird in China, and that's me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure Carmel knows it, the marching band, you know, Freebird, it's great. You know, it was just, we had such a great time, folks. We had really, really such a great time. Then technology starts to catch up. You know, I got to ask you here tonight, if you were you're boarding the Titanic tonight, the boat, the Titanic, and the captain said, hey, can I get you a life jacket or a lifeboat reservation? Would you? How many would say, yeah, sign me up? No, I don't mind cold water. Not at all. Well, I'm telling you, life is like the Titanic because you think here was insinkable, right? Never can sink. And all of a sudden, radio started sinking because of technology. And, you know, about the only thing that has survived radio, I think, is, I mean, Howard Stern, he's on satellite. Steve Dahl, he's, you know, on podcasting. The only thing that's living on radio is Jim Shorts. Right. Jim and Keith Richards of the Stones, you know. And the book is, sir, could I see this? This is pretty fun. Thank you, sir. This book, thank you. And you'll hear about this. Jim is in this. And Jim is, here, let me read this. A foreword from Jim Shorts, okay? Almost every day. Thank you. Thank you. Almost every day, I held up Kevin Matthews. He was horrible, had no talent. I made him what he is. He owes me everything. He became a cripple. He doesn't work. He's a loser. He's a horsehead. I am a radio god. It's in there. So there's Jim. So all of a sudden, folks, it just starts imploding. It's 2005. I have to leave. I just wanted to go back home, okay? I wanted to go back where it all started. The AM 1000 was sold. It was just, I wanted to go back and I wanted to program and make programs and do radio and just start over again. Just go back to the starting line. And of course, I picked the year the economy also implodes. Our house we're trying to sell, that only took 3 years to do. And so I'm commuting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's rough. And I really want to talk tonight. I want to tell the truth, okay? I really want to tell the truth. I have to tell the truth because the company I'm in. I want people to know things happen, miracles happen, and when they do, I want to give you what's happened in my life and compare it to Lourdes. Bernadette Subaru of Lourdes is definitely part of my story. The reason, because when I was married, Debbie wasn't a Catholic. She took the name Bernadette. Okay, Bernadette. She loves Bernadette to this day. And also, Fatima is important. Bernadette, 14-year-old girl, sees Our Lady, our mother. Fatima, 1917, 3 little children. Lucia, she's 10. Francisco, he's 8. Sister, Jacinta, she's 7. The child that touched me, his name is Oliver, and you're going to hear about Oliver, but it's children. I want to put things in perspective because people say you love Mary too much or you worship an icon. She was just a lady. So I got to put some things in perspective here before we go on. Fatima, it starts with God. So there's God, Jesus, Mary. That's how it came into my life. God first, Jesus, Mary. So let me take you back. I've left Chicago. I'm commuting back and forth. It's 2005. Suddenly, I'm on the air doing the morning show in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's 7:16 on a Tuesday. I can't feel my hand, my arm, my leg. I think I'm having a stroke. And I eventually have to drive myself back to, rather than call an ambulance, I drove back to Chicago and there was a mass in my head. And I went to the neurologist with my wife, and there's a mass in the MRI, in my head, in my brain. And I said to my wife, I said, well, at least I've got a brain. And my brain's not where you always says it is. But there's something about that when a doctor says, if that's cancer, where it's located, we can't operate, you're going to die. Go and prepare for that. So I had 2 weeks. They were going to give me an MRI. Well, they gave me an MRI. They were going to give me a, biopsy. And all I could think of was the Three Stooges drilling in the hole. And I'm thinking, that's going to hurt. Or it really changes your perspective, folks. And you're going to die. Wow. And I'm an hour away from the Three Stooges. And all of a sudden, the neurologist comes in and says, it's a rare form of MS. You don't have cancer. So the size, it was like a big walnut, and now they've got to shrink it down, and this is where the fun begins. The treatment, the steroids, the medicines, it was horrible. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. I could barely do my job. I mean, this MS was killing me. The drugs that, and I'm not here to feel sorry for myself, but my life changed overnight. And the radio owners, they knew it too. And I've got MS. It's St. Patty's Day. You know St. Patty's Day in Chicago. Wonderful. I'm Irish. Think of how many parties we had on the South Side. And I got to go see a lawyer. I can't take the Stevenson. I got to take the Eisenhower. I don't want to take the Eisenhower because it's fast, and I hate drug dealers. They drive fast, and it's like, I don't want to take the Eisenhower. And I get on the Eisenhower, and as soon as I get on the Eisenhower, I hear this voice that says, go to the cemetery. And if you remember, folks, there was the Our Lady Queen of Heaven Cemetery, and it's off Wolf Road. Debbie and I went there. The Tribune has written a story about the apparitions of Mary, and God, very peaceful. Yeah, I remember that. Go to the cemetery. And so I get on the Eisenhower, and I'm going up to Wolf Road again, and I hear the voice again, go to the cemetery. So I pull off, go out down Wolf Road into the cemetery, and I'm driving through the cemetery, and I go right up to this cross. This is where the apparitions were. This is where I was years ago. And I had this pamphlet with me, and this pamphlet I carried everywhere. Now remember, there is no coincidence. And I had this pamphlet, Our Lady of Fatima. Debbie went to Fatima in the year 2000, okay? And the only religious thing we had in the house, it's the years 2005, so we've had this pamphlet for 5 years. She went to Fatima. I have no idea what Fatima is, but there's no such thing as a coincidence. I carried this everywhere. I had it in my truck, and so I go to the cross, and I take the pamphlet, and I go to this cross of Jesus, and as you see, it's very tall. His feet are like up to here. And I walk out, and I go up to his feet, and I put my hand on his feet. That's when I just let go. I said, God, I am so afraid. I'm so afraid. And I was, folks. I was so afraid. And suddenly water starts coming down my hand and my arm, and suddenly I can be stronger than this hand now. And I wanted to put it on my head, and I went home and I said, Debbie, I can move my hand. God. Okay? Just like in Fatima with the 3 little children, an angel appears before Mary. It was God, and God sent a prayer to the 3 children of Fatima. Bernadette Subaru, God, Providence, God touched Bernadette first. It always happens, folks. It's God first. In this audience, it's always God first. God first. God never lets go of your hand. When I'm 6 and I'm wanting to go to heaven, he's got it. I let it go. Maybe at those golf outings or... So I'm doing the best I can. I can move my hand. A couple of years go by. I'm called down to the office. People, I can't do radio. I can't. One time, I love Dave Mason, the singer Dave Mason. He's on stage. He wanted me to introduce him. And I get up there in the heat on the stage, and ladies and gentlemen, Dave Mason. Now I got to get off the stage, and it seemed like it took me 10 minutes, and Dave's like, would you get off the stage? I almost fell into his guitars. I mean, it was like, it really would have been funny. I'm on the floor tonight. We had a dress rehearsal up here. I would have come right off this stage, and it would have been fun to see Kev fall. It was pretty cool. They have a new auditorium. He fell, cracked his head open. It was awesome. But I couldn't do radio. I couldn't do. You're fired. We'll give you 2 weeks' pay. You're fired. 30 years of radio. I'm 2 weeks' pay. I was like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. That's it. I was in a grocery store and I had to buy groceries. How am I going to do this? Where's the money coming from? What am I going to do? What am I going to do, folks? I know that there are people in here that lose their job. There's a lot of desperation in this room. There's a lot of desperation. There's a lot of people going, I don't know, God doesn't like me. God, you know, I've got addictions and stuff. People, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about me. Think of what you're thinking about. How many people lose their job? It's a Saturday. Driving around, I hear that voice again. Somebody said, do you hear these voices? Are they male or female? It was a good question. I don't know. I just heard the voice. I'm driving around. I hear a voice that said, buy your wife some flowers. Debbie's been through hell. Anybody with disabilities, the family, they work so hard. I thought, yeah, I look up, there's a flower shop. Coincidence? I pull into the flower shop, and it just snowed. I hate snow now that I've got MS. And I get out of my truck, I'm walking towards the door, I look over, and there's a dumpster. And I look, and I can't help but notice this. I walk over, and it is. It's the statue, this statue of Our Lady, the Virgin Mary, in the mud, covered in garbage. There's a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheese wrapper hitting her face. I look at her, she's on her back, she's looking up at me, and then I heard that voice, will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? It was stern. And it all happened, bam. There was no way I was going to leave this statue here. That's Mary. I'll steal it. Into the store, you hear a little bell ring. I'm the only one, the clerk, can I help you? I said, can I buy the statue of the Virgin Mary that's out by the dumpster, please? She said, no. It's a family heirloom. And I heard that voice again. Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? We're asked that all the time, folks. You're going to hear that a lot. Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? But I heard it again. And I just said, God, I closed my eyes quickly and said, God, help me. And I said, I'll give money to those nuns that live out around here. I had no idea what just vomited from my mouth. I know your voice. You're that guy on the radio. You got fired. Yeah. What happened? Da, da, da. I said, listen, I will give nuns. There's nuns out here. I'll give money if you just let me take the statue, please. She looks at me, yeah, Kevin Matthews. Okay. So I don't even buy Debbie flowers. I go out, and I hate to talk about women's weight, but she's heavy. Right? She's really heavy, and I got MS. She's in 2 pieces, and I pick her first up, and I'm trying to get on the ice, and it's slippery. I get her in my truck, make a little bed. I go get the second half, and I take her, and I remember I turn on the truck and the radio's on. I hate that. I turn that off and I'm never. God, the cemetery, the hand. Jesus, will you deny me? Oh my God. What if I would have left? I wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be here tonight. You know, now that that happened in 2011, what saddens me is how many people saw that statue of Mary in the dirt, the garbage, the mud, and did nothing. Does that happen today? Mary who? What? Mary what? Jesus what? It was God, Jesus, Mary. And this, your mother. It's okay, you can applaud. She's in two halves. So I go I put her in the garage, I make a nice little bed, and I got a little blanket, and she's all tucked in. You know, she's all scratched, and there's not a mark on her face. Not one mark on her face. I have a friend of mine, Father Mark, if you'll read in the book. Father Mark, I've known for a long time. I called him up. He's like a big brother to me. And I said, Father Mark, I found this statue. Where do I get it fixed? And he told me about a monument maker. So in the spring, I put her back in the truck and I drove her. And the monument maker, he looks at her, she's in again. She will look brand new. She won't even look broken. That's when I cried. That's when unemployment, MS, everything collided. I just bawled. No. Can't fix her. She's me. That's me. She's broken like me. I said, I just want to put her in half and I'll call her. I am driving home and I said, I'll call her Broken Mary. And Father Mark came over, blessed her with holy water, and boom, that's when everything happened. And it was though at that dumpster, will you deny me, will you deny my mother, just like the disciple John, saying, you know what, Kev, I'm going to leave you with my mother. What do moms do with kids who are dirty and busted and filthy? They clean them up. I've been with Mary since 2011, 8 years. So when people say you love Mary too much, or you're worshiping a God, Jesus, he doesn't like that. There's no way I'm going to outlove Mary more than Jesus. I was online on Facebook promoting this night on Facebook, and somebody said, you're a heretic. She's just a woman. Nonstop. She is in this room right now, folks. It's just a statue. I had somebody in a church official say, I don't get it. She's just a broken statue. He hauls around. Yeah, it's a man-made statue. I just haul it around. But I guarantee you, Mary's here. Jesus is in this room. God is in this room. This is where all the miracles started. Folks, I'm so happy. I don't ever want to go back into radio. Jim's doing that now. It's not me, folks. I'm just a guy. I am. It's not about me, it's Mary. Mary, I'm sitting there now with Mary. She's in my kitchen. I'm unemployed. I'm doing a podcast with Steve Dahl. This is back then. And I used to smoke back then. You know, I'd come, no shirt on, drinking coffee. Hey, Mary. 2012, all of a sudden, I'm going back to church. I'm going to see Father Mark in church. I get this desire to learn the rosary. I have no idea why. Mary's going to teach you the rosary. What I love about the rosary is not man-made. I told Father Mark, I'm going to learn the rosary. And so I forgot it's Lent. Starts today. I got to do she's in my dining room now. I got to start the rosary. So I Google how to say the rosary. And I get this little Irish guy, and he's saying the rosary, and I'm kind of hearing it, and I don't get it, and I'm doing it day after day after day. And about the third day, I go, I used to be in radio. I got a pretty good voice. Maybe I'll make one of those recordings. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Mary, I'm going to make one of those easy recordings about whatever it is you talk about. That took 3 years. And he paid the nuns. Remember that? Let's rewind. I made a promise. Father Mark goes, oh yeah, there's nuns out around you. They're Franciscans. Let's go see them. Bring the statue. So we go out there. And I love Franciscans because there's a height requirement. And if you're over 4 foot, you cannot be a Franciscan. You're going to be a Carmelite, okay? Dominican. Franciscan. So I go out, and there they all are. And I did feel like, in Close Encounters, where they took you up to the spaceship and they're all around you. They were all around me, and they loved the statue. And tell them about the story. So I told them about the dumpster, and I found it, and we're all broken, but we're loved by God. That came out of Horsehead, my first gospel. Father Mark's driving home, and he goes, that's a nice homily. Why don't you come and say the homily on Sunday, 7:39 and 11. Of course, I said yes. Now, I've done a lot of comedy, folks. I did 65,000 People, Grant Park, with Ellen DeGeneres, Mike Meyer, Dana Carvey, Jerry Seinfeld. I've on an altar at church, dying. I go on the second Mass, I get done. Don't let me do the 11:30, please. He goes, why don't you turn around? There were people on their knees in front of Broken Mary. We're broken, but we're all loved. I said the 11:30. I found out that homily that Sunday happened to be Sunday, October 13th, 2013, the miracle of the Son of Fatima. I've gone back to see things. When did I pick up this? When did I get the statue? Fatima. Fatima, 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 Fatima. And I said to Father Mark, I don't know what it is, but there's something about Fatima. Is a statue of Lourdes. This is what Bernadette Subaru saw. So there it goes back to Lourdes. Children. I told people at Mass, I said, if you're sick or you know somebody who's broken, take the statue. It doesn't belong to me. So people started to take the statue. Hospice, emergency rooms. She's died with many. But people were taking her. One person actually took this 67-pound statue and walked 2 miles home. People were taking it. Unbelievable. We have her at church and people were taking her. I had a listener, and this children, just like Fatima. This was little Oliver. This is the first picture ever taken of Broken Mary that went public. Notice the little hospital tag. He's 7 years old. He's in DeVos Children's Hospital. He eventually died after this picture was taken, but when he was around Broken Mary, he was so happy because he wasn't getting chemo and he didn't have, all he could think about. We couldn't get him away from this statue. This little boy, it was a child, just like Fatima, just like Bernadette. He died. Before he died, it was though Mary's grace said, buy a rose for me. Folks, I'm unemployed. How am I going to do that? That's almost 3,000 roses I've got to come up with. I called a florist that's a friend of mine. He goes, Kevin, I miss you so much on the radio. Of course I will. 3,000 flowers. It made press. Our first press. Kevin's got this statue. He calls it Broken Mary. And you can take it. And we started then. Now, Father Mark, there's a lot of stories going on here, folks. Father Mark said, you should really write a book. You should really write this down, and you need to. And remember those nuns, one of them is a professor at Grand Valley University you used to go to. President was murdered, and they kicked you off campus, that same university. Why don't I set up a lunch and, you can tell her about the story. So I did. She's little. I almost got her a booster chair. And I'm telling her, I'm like Huck Finn. I'm the biggest con on the planet. I'm like, yeah, it's a great story and you can write it. She goes, I'm not going to write it. You'd write it. I go, I don't know how to spell, con. You just spell check. I'm just like, da-da-da-da-da. She she gets done with the dinner, goes back out and sees Mother, Colleen Ann, and she doesn't want anything to do with me. The way I'm working with him. He used to work with Howard Stern, and that's Satan. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I am not doing this. And Sister Colleen Ann, I love her. She's like the fairy in just a Disney movie. She really liked me too. I love her. And why don't you think about it? So we started to write the book. It's so funny. She would ask me a question. Tell me about your college radio station. So it was like confession. I unloaded. I got a note back that just said, oh my. We're off and running. I'm going to be an author. So that took about 2 years. In the meantime, I'm still recording the app, and we're doing that. The book comes, and cases of books come. It's 2015. It's a beautiful book. You got to read it. No, the author is God. And it's just, wow, there it is. And I said, I'm going to take the proceeds of this book, and I'm going to take Father Mark, and I'm going to take the little nun, Sister Lucia, and we're going to go to Fatima for the 100th anniversary. And we did. And I'm like, oh man, I sit right next for 7 hours. Little sister. We get to Fatima, folks, it was great. Some folks, I did opened up Fatima, we did that brochure that I had, I wrote it, and I said, I'm Kevin Matthews, I found a statue, and I've written a book, and I've got a rosary app. Her name was Joan Alex, and she arranged it. So Father Mark did 3 masses at Fatima. I was able to actually recite the rosary at Fatima, and we had the rosary app. This is Sister Lucia. Look at the agony she's in. I'm recording the Rosary app, okay, and it's like my pronunciation, and this poor thing, she's Satan, she's helped with the book and this. She's going right to heaven. And so she's so sweet for Apple, okay? And you can download it now. You can go Broken Mary on Apple and get it. We're recording this before we went to Fatima. It's 2015. And as we get the audio and the content, we have to send it to Seattle to Apple headquarters. There was a word spelled wrong, A-N-D. So we'd get it back and we'd have to correct it, A-N-D, spelled right, send it back, spelled wrong again. It would take 3 months to get it back, spell it. This happened 3 times. The same word is spelled wrong. Sister, Sister, me, the engineer, she goes, give me your hand. We're all in the huddle. The engineer, by the way, was atheist. We're all in a huddle. She goes, let's say a Hail Mary. Say a Hail Mary, hit send, it goes through. Sister goes, now this is the first time I heard this. She goes, Satan hates you. He hates this project because he hates children, he hates the Rosary, he hates. I heard that for the first time. Satan hates you. You know, some of my biggest sponsors when I was on the radio was strip clubs. Yeah, Satan hates me because I'm 180 from that. So where apparitions take place. There is the Fatima statue. This is where Mary appeared to the children. I'm saying the Rosary that I didn't know how to say 2 years ago in front of thousands, the Rosary. And I look up, and you can't help but think, Mary, look, we've come a long ways. You've really cleaned me up. Mary, thank you so much. Before we left Fatima, I am all by myself at this statue. And this statue is in Fatima. The children saw Mary from May through October 1917. The mayor of so many people coming, plus he heard about the secret of Fatima. He wanted the children to say it. They didn't say it, so they were in jail. Eventually, they were released on the 19th of August, and this is where Mary appeared. So there I am sitting at this statue where Mary appeared. Father Mark and Sister, they go down. I'm all by myself with Mary. And I say, I'm looking at Mary and I go, Mary, I've written a book and you have 2 Rosary apps. Now what? And as soon as I said that, now what? How derogatory that is. And something whizzed by my head and shattered on the ground, and I didn't look at it, I just said, whatever that was, if it would have hit me, would have killed me. And I looked, Mary said to me, plant my seeds of the Rosary. I don't want you to do anything else. I don't need more books. The Rosary, the Rosary, the Rosary. So, we came home, got the book, got Rosary apps. Those Rosary apps, by the way, as of today, have been downloaded almost 500,000 times. It's her. It's her. 500,000 times. The book, big hit. And we've talked, folks, before I leave, and I can't thank you enough. What I have learned is that from the children,
little Francisco and Jacinta and Mary, we are so loved. I used to think God was so disgusted at me and my sins, and I'd be never forgetting, or I lost my job, I had no money, I'm trash. Just God sent me to a dumpster. That's awesome. A filthy dumpster where they throw things away. How many people today in our society feel useless? Even the youth. What am I doing? Garbage. That's where we throw things that have expired. That's where we throw things we don't use anymore. But we are so, so, so loved. I have learned a couple of things from the children of Fatima. Little Francisco, when they first saw Mary on May 13th, 1917, Mary appears. Lucia and Jacinta, they drop to their knees. It's raining. Francisco goes, "What are you doing? You're praying in front of a tree." And Our Lady appeared in front of the children. Francisco couldn't see or hear Mary. This is why I want you to know the rosary, women. This is Mary's hand. You hold it, you hold the power of God. This is Mary's hand. This is her umbilical cord. This is how she feeds you Jesus Christ. I love this rosary. I wear mine now. I can't take it off. And Francisco couldn't see. And so Lucia said to Mary, "Francisco can't see or hear you." And Mary said, "Have him recite his rosary." And Francisco took out his rosary and began to pray the rosary. He didn't say why or what are you doing, but that was the beginning of his sainthood. Without question, he started to recite the rosary. And within 4 Hail Marys, rosary, get one. It's a way to see and hear Mary. Seriously, it's a way to see and hear Mary. Download the app. I don't get any money from that. Broken Mary on Facebook, brokenmary.com. Say it. Put it when you have time in the car and whatnot. What I love about the rosary, Pope John Paul II, he loved the rosary too. The rosary was given to us by Mary to Saint Dominic in the 12th century because there was so much sin going on in France. And she said, "Here, Dominic, this is the weapon, a battery ram against sin." This is Mary's gift to us. Pope John is that when you hold this rosary and recite the rosary, even if you don't know it, she knows what you need. She's your mother. Say, "Mary, help me. Hold this rosary. Help me, Mary, help me." Mother Teresa, who I love so much, she was in all this filth and heat, dying babies. And she would say so many times, "Mary, Mother, be my mother now." Mary will come to you like this. You love Mary. You all do. She calls you daughter, daughter, daughter. She calls you my son, my son, my son. If you love Mary, she calls you her son, your daughter. John Paul II said, we're in a school right now, Carmel. It also can be called the School of Mary. Your students, just like the 3 little ones from Fatima, they were the first students of Mary, the School of Mary. Mary pulls you mystically into her immaculate heart to mold you to become Jesus Christ. Not like Jesus, to become Jesus Christ. That's how much she loves you. To be exactly like her son. Mary's immaculate heart.
I pray for it to shower this world. Anything's possible with God, Christ, Mary, and a rosary. How many people want to go to heaven? Wow. I'm never going. We're not talking about a saint like Saint Pope John II or Mother Teresa or Bernadette. We're talking about sanctity, to become saint-like. Guys, I want to speak to more guys, more and more guys. We need to earn the virtue of Mary. The holiness of Mary. We do. The sanctity of God. That's what we have to do. What does that mean? Sainthood can start with kindness. Just kindness. You want to know? I found God was at Meijer 4 days ago. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the poor clerks at Meijer? They just hear that tone. And this woman, Ruth, I go up to her and I'm next. She looks at me and I go, "Hi, Ruth." It's her name tag. I did some intel for Mary. "Hey, Ruth." But I meant it. "Hi, Ruth, how are you?" She looked up. Good. She had a badge on, and it was a badge of her son was a football player. I said, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's my son. He's a linebacker at Michigan." "Really, what's his name?" And we talked, and she starts hitting the scanners. And by the end, when I said, "It was really nice talking to you," she goes, "It was really nice talking to you." That's sainthood. How do you know that Ruth wasn't Jesus? And you get up there and go, "Hey, remember you were in Meijer doing that nice, that Ruth is me. Good job." Sainthood. Folks, it's fun. It's beautiful. I wish, I don't know what to leave you with. I'll leave you with one thing. Mary, why doesn't God talk to me? Why doesn't Mary talk to me? I've never seen Mary. I know I want Mary to come to me when I take my last breath. But God, why doesn't He talk to you? Are you listening? Sometimes we have to put our cell phones away. You know, I thought, does Mary have a cell phone? And I thought, yeah, it's this. And this is the charging cord. It really is. I had this man when I was in Chicago, and I used to bow hunt a lot. I met him. His Santa, his name, S-A-N-A. Claus was his last name. He'd come into, I swear, he'd come into O'Hare, and he'd get lost, and I'd have to have Santa Claus paged. But he was an Iroquois Indian. I love this man. He became like a grandfather to me. And he had nothing. And I said, "Santa, how come you're so happy?" He goes, "Brother, I try to outgive God every day." Think of that. Try to outgive God. And that's what I try to do now. Little Francisco, who didn't see Mary but took out his rosary, before he died, they said, "Francisco, what do you want the most?" And he goes, "I want to die and go to heaven just so that I can comfort God." And I thought, how beautiful. God isn't a damning God. God doesn't send us to hell. We do. God loves us. When's the last time you said, "God, how are you? God, what do you need? God, let me rub your back." Seriously. How can I console you, God? How can I console you, Jesus? How can I console you, Mary? They love us. I was in a prison. I go to prisons now because the book is a big hit. Because these prison inmates, they're lifers. They feel like garbage, been thrown away, and hey, they deserve to be in prison. That's the consequence. Tattoos on their face, but they're holding the rosary. We got them starting saying the rosary, and they love Mary. I got them to do the Stations of the Cross in the prison yard. Mary started that. Do you know that? The Stations of the Cross come from Mary. She traced where Christ was crucified during the Passion. So I have prisoners doing the Station of the Cross in prison. I had one inmate say, I'm going to die here. And I say, yeah, but you get to choose where you want to go for eternity. You get to choose eternity. Forgiveness, folks. Everything is forgivable. You've got 3 breaths to say, Jesus, forgive me. You know the biggest sin about Judas, he sold Christ for silver, is Judas didn't believe Jesus could save him. All he had to do, just needed forgiveness. Forgiveness. God loves us. Pretend we're not at Carmel in the auditorium, we're at O'Hare. And our next flight, our next connection is eternity. So where are you going to choose? Please know this woman is your mother. Even if you don't have one, she's your mother. Behold, your mother. Jesus is your brother. God is your dad. We're all children of God. We're all related. We're all children of God. Be a saint. Go be nice. Go be nice. And you as parents, I pray for you because this Catholic Church, I'm a Roman Catholic, folks. The Roman Catholic Church was created by Jesus Christ. He was. It's by Jesus Christ on the cross. I'm a Roman Catholic. Sure, the church is going through some tough times, but I'm not going to run away from the Roman Catholic Church because I'm not going to run away from Jesus Christ. He is the church. He's your church. He rocks. And he shops at Meijer. Thank you so much. We'll be out there in the lobby. Thank you. Thank you.